Hello and welcome to the show. Today we are learning from Adam Youssefbeygi. He's been a personal trainer for over 10 years, having previously worked in the performing arts, and in the last 2 years has been enjoying life as a father as well. We'll be finding out how the PT industry has changed over the last decade, how Adam managed to keep going whilst working 17-hour days for over a year, and how becoming a father has altered his work-life balance. Thank you for listening. This one was made for your enjoyment. Tell me a bit about your childhood and what led you to get into the performing arts in the first place.
My mum, predominantly. My mum was an opera singer. So I wouldn't say from an early age we had exposure to it that much. She would go away quite a bit, but we never saw her perform. We saw pictures and my dad used to bring it up quite a bit. But I didn't see anything of mum. We saw concerts. My mum would do concerts and everyone would be kind of like, I remember when we were quite young, we went to Wales and she did this. She was invited to Wales to do this concert at this really stately home. And that was the first time me and my sisters had seen her perform. We were maybe 11, 12, and everyone was just around us going, wow. And I remember this kind of like moment of going, I'm pretty proud of that. That's pretty impressive. That's my mum. That's my mum there. But it was crazy because she was a small lady. She was a mother. At the end of the day, we didn't think of her as anything else. But as the years went on, I kind of got into my amdrams. That's kind of how you start. Amateur dramatics.
Ah.
Sorry, that's for people in the know, mate.
Speaking the lingo.
Speaking the lingo. Got into amateur dramatics. I think the first one was when I was 11. I did The Wizard of Oz and I played the wizard. I know.
Behind the curtain. So no one saw you.
Basically, nobody saw my face.
Excellent.
I basically had a face for radio at the time.
Yeah.
So
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed there at all. So yeah, did that. And it kind of went from there and I kept on getting better roles. And I think I always had it in my head that drama school was the thing to do. But I did amateur dramatics right up until I was 18, 19. So for a good 6 years, I did like 1 or 2 shows a year. So you rehearse for bloody ages. But yeah, that was how I initially got into it. But my mum was kind of the catalyst for it.
So you grew up in Halifax,
Mm-hmm.
so you moved to London to pursue it a bit more?
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I was born in Tooting, so I was born in St George's Hospital. So my mum and dad met in London. They met in Chiswick. So it's a bit of a serendipity. My parents met in Chiswick, and then they moved to Wimbledon, and yeah, I mean, they met there. They got married in Chiswick, moved here, had me, and then family tragedy meant that we moved up north. I think 1, to be close to my grandparents, but 2, because my sister was about to be born. My mum was pregnant not long after having me, so we rented out the place down here and moved back to Halifax. And that's so I'm a Yorkshire lad, but technically on my passport I'm Tooting born.
Yeah, nice.
I know.
So you've gone full circle.
So it's gone full circle because I then went to university in Chiswick.
Yeah.
So I went to Arts Ed in Chiswick and I lived there for 10 years. And funnily enough, this is the weird thing, the site that Arts Ed is on used to be a polytechnic university. And when my dad first moved to this country, he did his A-levels in the same building in 1970, I want to say 75, 76 kind of thing, or maybe a bit before. So it really was serendipitous, me being in Chiswick for so long. And then, funnily enough, the only place that I could get a personal training job when I first started was Kingston Virgin Active, which is now Nuffield. And then when the opportunity to come to Rains Park came along, I now live in Rains Park, Wimbledon. The 2 places in London that my family is most associated with, I've lived and worked in for now 16 years. So it is weird. It is very, I do feel like I don't believe in much, but I do believe in that kind of
Yeah.
Full circleness.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So you came, obviously, you were very young when you moved up to Halifax.
Yeah.
So you probably don't remember a lot.
I think I was, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah. So borderline nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've come back to London, not for your first time, but essentially your first time experiencing it.
Yep.
As a pretty young adult. Talk us through what that was like for you.
Well, I moved when I was 20, so it wasn't a traditional drama school. Is obviously vocational. They always wanted. It was always on kind of like the releases. We want people with life experience, whatever that is. I mean, I was a plasterer for 2 years after I left drama school. After I left sixth form, I did plastering. I did wall hangings and stuff like that. So I knew I had experience of how to work, but I didn't have any other experience. So yeah, when I moved to London, I was 20, and I was ready for it. At 18, I actually wasn't ready to leave home, I don't think, but by 20, I was like, get me out of here. I was ready to go. It was intense. So, as I'm sure you're aware, it's like university is, or drama school in particular, is full on. So it's Monday to Friday, your first 2 years, 8 a.m., 6 p.m., constant on the go. You had very little downtime. It was a very structured experience, but I think one that stood us in really good stead down the line.
And talk a little bit about the auditioning process, getting into drama school.
Yeah, well, that was intense. So I started my auditioning process in 2006. So the first year I auditioned for drama school, I auditioned for all the regulars. My mum went to Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and that was like, in my head, I was like, I'm gonna go back there. I'm gonna be on the gold medal board where my mum is, and she still is. Wow. I felt like there was an element of providence about me. You know, everyone was like, "Oh, you'll be the next James Bond, Adam, and you'll be a Yorkshireman." It's rubbish.
I hear they're looking for a new James Bond.
Yeah, they are. I might have found one. Cool. But yeah, so there was an element of that, but the audition process was pretty intense because it was quite cutthroat. You've got 5,000 or 6,000 people apply, at least. I mean, that was just a guess, and there's 24 places, and there's conference and drama schools. At the time, there was like 20 drama schools. Each one took about 20. So what was that? That's 200 people. That's terrible maths, Adam. 400 people, and I don't know how many people applied, but there was a lot. The audition process was pretty cutthroat. So you had multiple rounds. Mine had 2, but if you went somewhere like RADA, there was 4 rounds, I think. And you could go to one drama school and be like pick of the litter. They loved you. Go to another one, and you'd be out within 2 minutes of them seeing you. So it really was, what we found out, it was very much about what they wanted for the group. So they wanted one person that was, they wanted maybe a guy, an Asian background. They wanted different things. And I, fortunately, with my name, I probably stood me in better stead than most. I like to think it was my acting abilities, but So yeah, the first time I went to Lambda, I almost got into Lambda, and I was with a guy who I still knew, who lives, funnily enough, in this area. And it's very unusual. You get called back twice, but we got called back. Both of us got called back on the same occasion twice, and they ran auditions for like 6 months. So we were clearly in competition with each other. Neither of us wanted to say it, and neither of us ended up getting it. We were both put on the waiting list, and it got to like 2 weeks before term started, and I was ready to move to London, and they said, "Sorry, neither of you got in." But the guy that I was apparently competing with went to ArtsEd.
Right. And
he was like, "Adam, look, I'm at ArtsEd. Apply. I'll put in a good word for you." I was like, "I don't need your good word, mate. I'll just do it." But at the time, I'd never heard of ArtsEd, but it was big on film and television. Because I was there going Guildhall. So if you're within the industry, Guildhall, RADA, Bristol Vic, London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, those were like the big players. Mm. But there were 20 within the conference, and all of them had their own little major skill sets. So I'd never heard of ArtsEd. Then I saw it was in Chiswick. So I went for the audition the second year round. I worked I did lots of different little jobs, worked in a coffee shop, went for my audition, and they said it hadn't happened to anyone before, but yet it happened to me. So I turned up to this audition, and I'd been to lots of acting auditions before, and these guys were like proper thespians, you know, when you turn up to these acting auditions. And I turned up to this audition, and everyone was like doing like high kicks and like stretching out, and there's pretty flamboyant characters there. I was like going, this is not, I mean, I want to go to the Royal Shakespeare Company. I want to be a serious actor. Yeah. And these guys are doing high kicks and stretching with their foot up the door. So I thought, all right, I'll join in, like a bit of a stretch out. I was like doing all that.
Arm circles.
Like proper arm circles, like warming up. Looked like an absolute plonker. And still think about it now. So I went into this audition room and all these guys were there like warming up, like doing all these ridiculous bends. And this dance instructor walked in and I was like, right, let's go. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a pas de bourrée, and a kick. It was like that scene from Joe from Friends.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever seen it, the Joe from Friends, where they're doing this ridiculous move and he's told them on the audition thing that he can do the dance. He can't. Same as me. And I remember just sticking my hand up going, sorry, is this the acting audition? Because this is dance. I don't understand what's going on here. I didn't realize I had to do all this stuff. And they went, sorry? What? No. And this was a room of 50 people at least in this audition. They pulled me out. Turns out they put me in for the wrong audition. They put me in for musical theatre. All these people were pretty much professional ballet dancers and or jazz or tap. And I was this actor. So they pulled me out and were like, oh, we're so sorry. This has never happened to anyone before. We don't know what's happened. We must have mixed up your papers. So they sent me packing. So we come down to London. They paid for me to come back down to redo the audition for acting. And I got in. Nice. So I don't know whether they felt bad. So they were like, let's let this guy in because we feel bad for him. So that was already a weird start. Yes.
Yeah. So you worked in acting across the board for a few years.
Yeah.
Obviously, what I've known you as since I've met you is as a PT.
Yeah.
Smashing it. But how did that first come into your mind as something that you could do as well?
I think I'd always been into my trainings from the age of 16. And growing up as a rather overweight child, it'd always been, I remember when I was very young, and it was ridiculous at the time, but I remember going away and training over a summer and coming back, and all of a sudden these girls were interested in me. And it was it was childish mind at the time. Yeah. You think, oh, if I do that, this will happen.
That's how everyone starts.
That's how everyone starts. I know. But, and it had always been there, but it would always been cardio based or whatever. And then at drama school, I didn't do much training I didn't do much gym work at all, but it was so physical. Like you were always on your hands and knees. You're always moving around. You struggled to put on weight. So getting into the fitness industry was interesting because I did some films. And I did some plays that kind of encouraged me I had to get into shape for one of them, but the final one was kind of like I just was getting in good shape. And as a result of that, I remember I finished a job end of 2013 and I was sat there beginning of January, kind of feeling sorry for myself, going, okay, I'll be moving to London in August, but whatever. And my mum just turned to me and was like, Adam, why don't you go and study to be a PT? You've got this money in the bank that you got from your acting jobs. You're not doing anything really, apart from waiting for the phone to ring, for auditions to come in. Why don't you do this? And me in my naive head, I was like, I'm Adam. Yeah, I can do this. I don't know what was going through my head. It was just like, yeah, totally. That's absolutely fine. I'll go down and just make loads of money. Yeah, no problem. I'll get this degree, no problem. It's easy. So I basically became a hermit. From January until August, I woke up, I studied for a couple of hours, I trained for a couple of hours, I went home, I studied, slept, repeat. Didn't see friends. Apart from coming to London to audition, and some friends kindly put me on their couches, I honestly didn't get... I was so regimented, it was ridiculous.
Is that a mindset you've always had, being able to go into that mode?
No. definitely not. It was something that drama school instilled. It's something that martial arts for me. So martial arts I did from the age of 11, predominantly karate, was something that punctuality was something that was always really reinforced and something that I believe strongly in. Always being, especially when it came to turning up to auditions, you had to be prepared, you had to be ready, knowing exactly for every possible outcome you could deal with and you could roll with it. But I think the creativity factor as well was something that I really enjoyed, like thinking on your feet, not necessarily having all the answers straight away, but you're able to go away and kind of put something together. But it wasn't an easy journey by any means, because August came around, I still wasn't fully qualified. I was level 2. So that's, if anyone doesn't know, that's like gym instructor level. So you can teach classes, you can clean down machines, and you can actually work in a gym. But if you want to personal train, like, I was quite a way off. I don't think I qualified until the following January. So I was moving to London effectively without a job I was level 2, which I thought already, I'll at least be earning minimum wage or better. And knowing that my full qualification wasn't coming through, I wasn't able to take it until January. So I really kind of, I went in, and I've said this to many people that have asked about PT before, I went in totally naive, and I think that, in a way, saved me. Because if I'd have known the time, I knew that work was required, but to that level, to reach the level that I thought I could get to and should be at, how much work that would take, I didn't know. And I went in it completely blind, and the rest was history.
Nice. It sounds like the drama school and that acting career had a massive impact on your discipline and your ability to get into that mindset.
It did.
Obviously, when I met you, you were very early on in your career as a PT, and the hours you were working were, I would say, ridiculous.
Yep.
Obviously now it's a lot better. Just talk us through a bit what you were doing then and how you got through that.
When I first came, so I obviously met you at Anytime Fitness, Rains Park. So I moved over there from not far, even though when I first moved to Kingston, it took me an hour and a half to get here. I don't know where I went. There was no sat nav at the time. I don't know what happened. But I came over here, but one of the great luxuries I had is that I built up a client base where I was. And that had taken a lot of work and very little income. Like I think at Virgin Active, I was earning like £800 a month, and my rent was £500. And that was excluding my travel. So
breaking even.
I wasn't even breaking even. No. I was severely in the red. And I took a massive gamble because I had no idea. I had a friend who was going to be the manager, and she was like, "Look, Adam, I want somebody to come over here and start up. You'd be self-employed." And she was fantastic. She really kind of took me under her wing and made sure that I had work. But I also came with 16 to 18 clients, ready for me to go self-employed, ready to pay me directly, which I would always say to anybody starting out, build your client base in a place of security. Now, it wasn't well paid, but it was a fantastic beginning for me. And like I say, everybody's different. Everyone goes into different things. But I was able to come there and really hit the ground running without having to worry about financials. I think that there's parallels there with acting, because there's a lot of people that are successful in acting, not because they're the greatest actors, but because they've been able to stick with it the longest and being able to go through those bad times and good times. Same with any rugby players. They say that about elite athletes. Their ability not to get injured and just stick it out is one of the mainstays of their career. So yeah, I was able to stick it out and come to Anytime Fitness and just grow from there.
And what were your days looking like? Man.
Okay, days.
Go on.
So I lived in Chiswick at the time. I'd broken up with a girlfriend, and I'd lived in Chiswick my whole time in London. I was like, I refused to leave. I was stubborn, bordering arrogant, And
This is me.
this is my place.
I'm not leaving.
Rains Park who? But I was traveling, and this was when Hammersmith Bridge was open. I was traveling, I was using Waze in its early days across different parts, but I was waking up at 4:40 in the morning. I was leaving the house at 5 to get to the gym for 5:30. I'd work solidly from 5:30 till 11 training clients. Solidly, no break, just straight through. Then I would drive home, which would take me an hour because the traffic was worse. So I'd get home at 12. I would train at some point between 12 and 4. I would leave the house at 4, get to work for 5, work from 5 until 9:30, get home, drive again. It would take me like 40 minutes. 10 past 10, eat, sleep, repeat.
That's
so
mad. And how many days a week was that?
6. So 5 days, Monday to Friday like that. The Saturday I would do 9 till 1 maybe. So I don't know how many hours I was doing, but travel alone was 1.5, was like 3.5 hours a day. So if I combine that by 6, and I did that for about 18 months.
That's incredible.
Before I finally stopped being stupid and moved to Rains Park. And when I did, I was there going, what have I been doing my whole time?
Yeah.
But I think I needed that time. I had my own place in Chiswick. I was doing well, but I was literally, I burned bridges with relationships. I burned bridges with friends on some occasions because I was so focused on building my business, so focused on pleasing other people as well, making sure that I was always there, always punctual, always ready to go. I mean, I was burnt out by the end. I had no other choice.
Yeah. I think if you can get through 18 months of that, then when life gets a little bit easier.
It is, but you also want to keep that. I mean, it's different now, but that fire, that kind of like hunger, but it's unsustainable. It's unsustainable was that kind of life. And that's, I think everybody to a certain extent anybody that's successful in their industry and what they do goes through that.
It's finding, isn't it? There's either end of the scales. There's doing what you did there, and then there's super, super easy where you start to fall away from it because you haven't got enough of a challenge. You need to find the right level of discomfort to keep you going, to keep you fighting for it, basically.
I think that's it. Finding that right level of discomfort. I got to my limit of discomfort, but I was also in a profession that I loved. Yeah. It wasn't like I was doing it because the money for me was never a focus. I only ever set myself one financial goal. I've only ever done that in my whole career. The rest, once I reached that, I was like going, anything else is a bonus. Anything else, let's just relax about. And I think that as well has led to other things that I would not necessarily have got had I pushed for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a learning curve. And obviously, as I've grown older now, I mean, I've now been in Rains Park for 8 years, PTing. I've been here for 8 years and obviously training in central London and other locations and online, which since COVID has completely changed the business. So yeah, over time, because I've been master of my own business, I've been able to go, because what's been most important to me is work-life balance. Ever since then, and ever since I had my son, it's always been, that is the priority. And selfishly, if people want to train the way I train, then they will work around me. And that's kind of the way that you have to think as well, selfishly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But otherwise, you'll just be there every day.
If you're a people pleaser.
If you're a people pleaser in this industry, you are. I think a lot of time people respond to that better. What do you think?
Yeah, I worked as a PT briefly, and I think I've got that. I think I've got that people pleasing mentality. But then I took on so many clients. Obviously, it was my second job anyway.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I was just burning out.
Yeah.
And then I realised, I think what you've talked about there is having that realisation and cutting off and saying, I can't do that time. I can't do that because I need to think about myself a bit.
You can't. I mean,
it's
it's
realisation.
True. It's a realisation. I mean, I mixed PT and acting for a year. I've never had tonsillitis more. I've never been as ill as that, because I realised that I either have to 100% commit to PT or still continue down the acting road. You have to make that decision, and I think very few people actually do see that. Sometimes I think it can be quite tough for people to see, especially in London, because people need to live, and they don't look after themselves necessarily as well as they could. But yeah, it's a balance.
So we've spoken a little bit. You mentioned about how building a client base was like something you did very early, and you were lucky that you got such a good client base. When we spoke previously, you spoke about that being down to your style of training, your methods.
Yeah.
What's unique in that sense that you think people might be attracted to?
Originally, so when I first started, my style was it was brutal. I was young, and my style came from my experiences in the acting world. So I went through something that, to be honest, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It was kind of like a hybrid Navy SEAL Marine work that we did, and I remember the first day that I did it, it was like 8 hours long
of exercise.
Yeah. And there was 15 minutes break the whole day. That was it.
And this was for acting.
And so I was in a mix of, I think there was 30 guys, of which 8 or 9 of us were actors. The rest were military. Yeah. So we already were the kind of the people that they poked fun at. And we turned up, and nothing was ever as bad, and nothing's ever been as bad since. So in my training, especially when I joined Virgin Active, they offered me the 9 a.m. circuits class, and I was like, okay. I remember stressing about it the night before, because this was like the holy grail of classes at that place. 9 a.m. Saturday morning. You're talking 30, 40 people turning up for this circuits class. And the previous guy had left to move on, Pastures Green. So you were massively under the spotlight by the Kingston regulars. And I turned up, and I was again, that was where the acting came in, because I just became this performance like you do in circuits class. You become the performance. But my style was own body, was calisthenics, was the bear crawling, was the kick sitting, was all that kind of stuff was my jam. That's where I came from. So it was a bit of a change in direction from what people were used to. But that class gave me my client base, because people then saw how I worked.
Yeah. I want a bit of that one-on-one.
Yeah, and I would always advocate for any PT to don't think you're too big for anything ever, because I still teach my class now, and I will always teach my class, because it's a good way of people connecting in with you on a class basis, but also to get a feel for who you are as a person, as a trainer. Because you're not, I always tell people, you're not the same in class as you are in PT, but that was my biggest thing, hands down.
You've recently, the last 2 years, I suppose, and just over, have been a little bit different for you. There's been a little mini me running around.
There is,
a mini you.
He's got my shoulders as width.
He's wham.
He's absolutely wedge.
What's that been like for you, a bit of fatherhood?
Good. Yeah, like scary. I've never been as scared in my entire life. I have absolutely no idea what I was doing. Still don't. But Angelique's fantastic. She put me at ease. But that was completely different. And I mean, I took 6 weeks. I took 2 weeks before my son was born. I took 4 weeks afterwards, completely unpaid. Because that's the nature of the business. But I took it because that was more important to me than, and I made sure all my clients were sorted. But it was, mixing parenthood and work-life balance has also been interesting, because it's also meant that I'm a little bit more focused on my work when I'm at work, because I've got a finite period of time to work now. I work 3.5 days a week, Monday to Wednesday all day, Thursday until 3, and after that I'm papa, and I cut off unless there's some massive emergency with work. I cut off, and I've just become Papa.
Nice.
So it's actually given me a lot more focus moving forward with clients, because I don't have a 6-day week. I don't have a 5-day week anymore. It's really important for me that I have that time with him. We have both me and his mama have 1 day each, Monday and Friday, where it's just me and him. Yeah. Us and him, whatever.
Was it like that from day one? So did you immediately manage to split work and life, or
yeah.
you sort of prepared for it ahead of time? Or
I prepared for it. I prepared my clients, but I also prepared myself for it. Ever since COVID. COVID, as much as it was a shitty time, it was also a really good resetter for my business in the way that I go about things, how much time, how much energy in myself I'm willing to give for what I get out. And when my son was born, I was like, this is how much I'm going to work. This is the time that I'm going to give to people. And I will give that time 100%. But after that is off, I'm off. I'm done. Like, you can't contact, well, you can contact me, of course, but that is my time. That's my family time. And I think having those two separate things has kept me fresh. It's kept me willing to keep like learning, keep trying new stuff, enjoying the job, because it doesn't matter how, I'm sure you know, you when you burnt out, you were like, you got to a point of burning out, and there was a point where you're like, I physically don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I've been there several times in my career.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. Of going, I really don't want to be here. Yeah. I don't want to smile. I don't want to be bigger. Because when you turn up,
it's difficult because you're there for that person.
Yeah.
They want you to be there to get them through it. So you've got to put on something, because if you turn up how you're feeling and you wear that on your face, they're going to know about it and they're not going to feel it.
Yeah. They can see it. And when somebody's paying a premium for your services, they deserve it. And, I always remember, going to these PT seminars and stuff, and people going, don't be on your phone. I don't understand why any PT would be on their phone.
Yeah.
Be mindful of what your client's doing. It's just simple things. And what's great is that, PT is becoming a lot more regulated nowadays in the UK. It wasn't when I first started. I remember turning up to my first interview. There was 30 guys in there, all apparently more qualified than me. A couple of these guys had like weed socks on. So, like socks. They had pictures of weed on with tucked in. I was like, what is this? It was madness.
This is the fitness industry, baby.
This is the fitness industry in 2013. But it was a time of great... there's so much has changed. So much has changed in the industry. You remember power plates?
Yeah.
That was a thing.
It was
like 20 or 30 and 30 women vibrating on them for like 30 minutes.
On the power plates.
Yeah. I just clarified the power plates.
So, yeah, that's a good point. So you've obviously been within the industry working for over 10 years now, and I'm sure interested in following the industry before that. How has it changed, and what's different now between what it was, what's good, what's bad?
There's been great positive strides forward in the industry in terms of science-based knowledge. I think social media has been great in showing that, but also being really bad in showing other things. My brother-in-law's brother, he is the go-to guy for nutrition.
Right.
he's GP. He works in a hospital. He deals with, serious nutritional problems, but also, your day-to-day people. And he's the only person that I look at when it comes to, I'm not a nutritionist, but this is the man to go to. But you look on social media, and some things can be really informative and really thought-provoking. A lot of stuff is sales pitch. It's crazy. So, again, there's positives and negatives in both of those. Same when it comes to exercise. I remember when I first joined the gym, there was no women in weights areas. There is now. And it's amazing because it's so important. It was just, it's cross trainers and treadmills. So there's been fantastic positive strides in that. Obviously, the era of tripods, those dominate in the gym, and people feeling compelled to video themselves doing a squat. Quite frankly, I don't give a shit. I don't want to look at it. I'm not interested. And I'm targeted on my social media because of that. I've never seen so much lycra wearing ass huggers in my life. It's
pandemic.
It's pandemic, but a lot of my clients come to me and go, "But I've seen so and so on social media, and how did they get that?" And I was like, "You have a job. You have a life. This is their life.
This is all they do,
and this is all they do." So
it's probably something else they do, but
it's probably as well. But I think social media has been fantastic. But the fitness industry in general is becoming a lot more regulated. But there's a lot more apparent professionals who think they know what they're talking about, which is fine because everyone's got an opinion, but equally they need to shut the fuck up sometimes.
I think you spoke earlier, or you were talking about how the fitness industry in person is becoming more regulated, which is a good thing. I think the difference now is you've got social media, which is less regulated. So you've got people online who maybe have trained, they look good, good. Their friend goes, "Oh, you should be an influencer. You should talk about fitness on your Instagram." And it's just because they look good. Like, fair enough, they might know something, but
you don't choose.
They become professionals, don't they?
They become professionals. It's like, you don't choose a sport chooses you. You don't choose rugby because you want to be 6'8". Rugby chooses you because you are 6'8" and built like a brick. You know what I mean? Like, I can count on one hand the amount of years that I've been absolutely ripped. And it doesn't take many. I don't. 95% of my life, I have not been. I've been in good shape. I've been in great shape. I've been in okay shape, and I've been in bad shape. Doesn't make you, like, there's that idea of you need to have a six-pack to be a PT. I literally had one for maybe 5 years and haven't had one since. It's sometimes verging on dad bod slipping, but I make sure I exercise. I make sure I look after everything. And everybody's different. But again, social media and even things that I've been involved in, films that I've been involved in, have had, in my opinion, a negative effect on the way people perceive the way they should look, which is wrong because everybody's different. Some of the fittest people a guy that I have just trained, 55 years old, 50, whatever, 60, he, older gentleman, he benching 78 kilos, 10 reps, 5 sets, no problem. He's running on treadmills for a kilometer in under 4 minutes. Looks are not the be all and end all. And I think there's that thing that has become a change. I started PTing in the Kate Moss, era, and it grew into the Kim Kardashian era, is what I would call it. Yeah. So yeah, I think there's been great strides. Regulation-wise, I mean, companies like SimSpa, Reps, and that kind of tied things up a little bit and made it. A lot of companies now, a lot of personal training gyms, studios, they require good qualifications to get in. So, I think we're moving in a massively in the right direction. But I do think there needs to be more regulation, like you said, on social media, just to make sure people are getting the right message. Because obviously people want to make money off their products, and that's fine. But don't lie. Yeah.
I think not focusing on looks is such an important thing. I think personally, as like you spoke about, I've done it when I was a kid. Like, when you first get into the gym, it's I want to look better.
Ripped.
I want to look ripped. I want to look jacked. The girls will love me. And there comes a time where you realise that that's not really the main goal of it, and you feel better for it. Your health's better. Maybe you pick up a sport because of it. So, like you said, you might realise that you've got a tendency to rugby. You get super strong in the legs. Fine, let's go. I think some people stay in that mindset of it's all about looks. And I think that has a big impact then on like mental health as well.
Totally.
Do you think social media's having an effect on that, adding to that essentially.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I can only speak from the perspective I find myself in, which is dealing with general population clients a lot, is that leaning towards, why can't I look like that? And they don't think that photo's not been tampered with, or they've not sucking in, or they're not checking their angles and making sure things are right.
That's not one of
It's not
150 photos they've taken.
They've taken just to get the right angle. It's so misleading, and it's so obvious sometimes to see. It's difficult to get away from, because nowadays, everything's on your phone. I look on Instagram all the time. I've got an Instagram profile, but I've slowly retreated from it. And so have quite a few coaches that I know. A lot of coaches that I know now who don't require social media for marketing. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I get emailed by coaches of coaches. That's what it is.
Right.
Coaches wanting to grow my online business by 10K a month. Seriously. I mean, there's now this whole industry within the industry of trying to sell online products, which is, again, it's fine if there's a business for it, but I don't feel like all of them are being completely truthful.
Yeah, I think with that, the online coaching thing, I know you do online sessions face to face or one on one, which keeps that personality. I think the problem with all that, the online coaching stuff, is you're just selling a program. You're not really giving the person a one-to-one experience, which essentially is what personal training is. Yeah. It's in the name. Yeah. And people come to you for that. You're the person who's going to help them get better.
But it equally leads very much a glass ceiling. Glass door, you can
have a glass door.
You can get out of that glass door. A glass ceiling to what I can do in the time that I have, which is why the type of clients has changed. But it is I don't do any online coaching. I think that's why they call it online coaching, because it's not personal training. But I could never give an online program to a client without making sure that they can do it effectively, safely. Even if I was to send them videos of myself doing it, vast majority of people I've ever trained don't have that ability to look at something and replicate it. I would say 90% of the clients I've ever trained, if I do something, I squat, show them a squat, they do it, they can't do it. Yeah. And that's not their fault. It's just not.
100%. I think, you get anyone off the street who's not trained and ask them to do a squat, they'll all have seen what a squat looks like. And even if you show them then and there, it's never going to look the same, because it's a it's a physical pattern that your body needs to learn and remember.
And I think that's why I don't believe in it. And there'll be haters who say, "Oh yeah, well, you stick to your antiquated way of doing things."
Hate's gonna hate.
Hate's gonna hate, and it's fine. Don't worry. I really enjoy it. But I do think that I think one of the biggest reasons why I've been able to do what I've done is because of my personality. No, but because each person is different, and that's what I enjoy. I've got so many people from so many different walks of life, and it's great. And that's why I got Christmas socials, I got summer socials with my clients in Wimbledon and stuff. And to get everybody together in one room, you would never get that social mix ever. And I think that's what I love about the job.
That's nice. Yeah, you got a nice community with your client base. Yeah. It's really nice.
I think every personal trainer that's had some sort of success has a community, has a following, has a that kind of thing.
I think that's important as well, because it gives them people to be doing it alongside. Whilst their sessions are with you, they've got other people going through the same things. You can all talk about how mean Adam is to you when you're in the gym.
But equally, I've got clients that live abroad. I've got clients around the world that I catch up with on a weekly basis, and we train, and I give them plans to do, and they go away and do it. So I think that's what's made it so much more exciting is the breadth of people has grown. It's no longer just an SW, a Southwest London thing. It's a whole thing. It's a worldwide thing now, which is great.
Yeah. And not necessarily going back to social media, but just the general sort of fitness space over the last few years. What do you make of the body positivity movement?
I've never dealt with absolutes. I think people that are body positive about themselves, who are clearly extremely unhealthy on both ends of the spectrum, need to seek help. But also, it needs to be a comfortable place where people can discuss that. Yeah. Discussion being the main word, not having a go
not
at,
a debate, not an argument.
No, not an argument. It's being able to be in a safe space of taking somebody to one side and saying, "Look, we want to get together and have this conversation with that person." But I think it's super important that people should feel comfortable in their own skins, regardless of who they are, because that's the only way you're going to heal. Because fundamentally, we're all self-conscious beings. I'm self-conscious about certain things. I'm sure a vast majority of people are. And I always know, based upon my own, body images and so on, that if I'd have been made to feel comfortable when I was younger in who I was, then I think my transition into where I am now would have been easier. Transition, that's weird. Sounds like I'm going through it. Yeah, I changed. Yeah. No, I'm not. Do you know what I mean? It would have made life easier, and I think I would have been able to cope with things a little better growing up. But I think it is important. But I think fundamentally, the woke world that we live in now is you're scared of what you're going to say. I mean, well, I'm always going to insult somebody, but extremely overweight people, extremely underweight people, clearly need some help. And again, every body shape's different. So I know some very tall, lanky people or very short, stocky people that are perfectly healthy. Just everybody's different.
Yeah, carrying weight differently.
Yep.
I think you smashed it right at the start when you said it's about having a conversation. Yeah. I think in this day and age, you've got to pick a side and you've got to be fully committed to that side. And if you're not committed to that side, you're out. Yeah. And then you're sort of in limbo. You can't think one way on one topic and one way on another topic. No. I think people feeling comfortable in their bodies absolutely is something that needs to be it's fine to do. Yeah. Obviously, we want that. I think when it starts getting promoted as healthy, when it's obviously not,
I think that's the point. Yeah,
I think that becomes dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, healthy is a way of life, and if somebody's going, I'm fat and I'm happy, okay, but that's not healthy.
Yeah. Don't promote that as.
Yeah, it's just, and it's difficult. It's difficult to have those conversations because so many more people now are kind of really positive about their bodies, and that's totally fine. And you want that to be, but people should always be striving for better for themselves, not for anybody else. And I think that is key. Is I always strive for better within myself. Sometimes I don't get it. A vast majority of the time I don't achieve it. But you should always be pushing for something a bit more, a bit better for yourself. And as a byproduct, other people will see that. And the energy that you give off, that will be seen.
So going back to your acting career, you were in 300 Rise of an Empire. How was that for you, that experience?
That was an assault on the senses.
Assault
on the senses, look at that.
Oh. It's like an M&S advert.
I feel like you need Dawn French talking about it. It's not just an M&S sense. This is a painful sense. This is a 300 sense. It was it was a fantastic experience. It was pretty much the culmination and the end of my acting career.
Okay.
Because from there I was in amazing shape. And it was from there that I went, let's go study PT. Because I had such great coaches. I got in such fantastic shape that I was like, right. And I was on screen for about 10 seconds, as is the acting world that nobody realizes. That I ended up going, right, let's find an alternative. Let's take control of my own life, because for so long I was under the control of other people. You've got this job, you've not got this job, or you're shortlisted. Can you hang around a bit longer? I was like, no, I love the fitness industry. I love training. More importantly, I love training other people in their own styles and achieving their goals. So it was a big swing, something I was incredibly proud of, but it was also a big linchpin in me getting my first PT jobs, because in my head, I was Adam Beggy. I was in 300.
You know me.
You know me.
You've seen me.
Yeah, you see me. And I couldn't be more wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong, because as I found out, it was more, and this is full circle, it was more about my personality
So
than
beautiful.
what I'd done. And it was true. It was true, because no one ever... I'd be spending 6 months training a client, and they were like, so what did you do before this? And I said, well, I did this and this. And all this time, my entire logo was a Spartan helmet with PT behind it. But I think you see so many people with their business logos very similar, with the Spartan ethos, of course.
Meant a little bit more to you, maybe.
Yeah, but it wasn't until they went,
well.
oh, that's why you have that. And I was there going, people actually don't give a crap about that. What they care about is how you train me, how you make me feel, and how supportive you are, and how you keep me on track with my goals. So as much as it was a big thing in my life, and still is, it was also a big turning point for me. So yeah.
If anyone's listening who is an aspiring PT, a PT at the start of their career, struggling a bit, maybe on that 800 a month that you were on, what's one piece of advice you would give them to keep them going?
I'd say, just if you can. I mean, there's so many financial implications nowadays with it. I was lucky. A short story is that I remember 4 months into my PT career, on the end of the phone to my mum, going, Mum, I fucked up. I thought I was the big I am. I'm earning 800, I can't support myself. I can't do this. And my parents turned around and went, don't worry, love. You focus on your clients. You pocket that £800. Well, my rent at the time was like £500 a month, a lot of money. My parents, for 4 or 5 months, paid that rent. It enabled me to kind of keep the 800 and reinvest that 800 into my clients, into the time, into the energy. And that was such a weight. I understand a lot of people don't have that opportunity that I had. That 4-month window that I had changed the rest of my life, in my opinion. If you have the support network around you, use it. But if you don't, grit your teeth and just work. Work hard. Be humble. Be respectful. Be punctual. But most importantly, do it with a smile on your face. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Because it's only when you come out the other side that you look, oh, I wish I'd enjoyed that time more. Because each client is different. Each client is an opportunity to learn. So yeah, enjoy it and work hard. And I think I don't know what the percentages are of PTs that are continuing after a year, but it's bloody low. It's like 5%.
Low, I imagine, yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I think a lot of people go in naively like I did, but sometimes without the support network that I did have. And I don't know now to this day whether I would still have been in the industry had I not had that support. And there's no fairy tale to it. Literally, my parents went, we'll pay for the rent for a couple of months and just make sure that you can. And I remember my mum saying, focus on your clients. Focus on your work. Don't worry about the money. And I think that's another point. If you start making money your priority in personal training, people will see straight through that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people see successful PTs, they see the amount they're earning, and they think that they can get to that pretty easily
and quickly.
And as we've learned today, like, it starts in a most brutal fashion. Like, it's not that simple.
The hours that you work, pay dividends down the line, but you've got to work hard. I mean, I had a full head of dark hair when I started PTing. I've now got a greying beard and no hair on my head.
Still looking mighty fine though.
Yeah. So it's work ethic, but just try and enjoy it and enjoy the clients that you train, because each one I remember. I think I did a stat, and I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that I've trained over in person. I've trained over 600 people. In
how many at any one time? Would you like? What's the maximum you
maximum client? Maximum clients I ever had was around 74.
That's still quite a lot, but
yeah. And some of them went every week. But in terms of, but over the course of 11 years, like obviously you've got clients that move on and do other things, and I think it's really important that you do have that. A lot of people stay with their clients for longer than they should, and it's important that you do see other people, and but yeah, love it.
Good. All right, I think that's a good place to end today. If people want to find you online or just follow what you're doing,
don't do it. There's literally baby pictures nowadays. It's like
okay then.
There's like I don't know. You can send me a text. No, I'm on. Yeah, Adam Beygi. My social media is now a way that occasionally I can put up a photo of me and my family, but I don't put up that many anyway. I'm barely on social media, but I am at Adam Beygi.
And for us, if you want to find our Instagram, that is Lonely Chapter Podcast. And lastly from me, thank you for listening.